Hi, welcome to my debut of the Built Forms of Cinema, where I examine the relationship between architecture and its role in film production. Growing up, my earliest memories of film or television were that of Chinese wuxia films by the likes of Zhang Yimou or Ang Lee. As a child, these built environments in which the stories unraveled instilled a great deal of awe.
Have you ever seen anything like that before? I didn't know men could build such things.
I couldn't articulate this at the time, but I think what was so special about the experiences, aside from the narratives, was seeing the amalgamation of one of the world's most ancient art forms with a modern industry which, although is ubiquitous and synonymous with modern entertainment, its technology has only been around for the past 100-some-odd years.
You see, this is what the people want. Silent pictures are yesterday's news, so I figure we gotta reshoot Hell's Angels for sound.
How much of it?
All of it.
You see, the rise of sound films, or talkies, coincided with the rise of the modernist architectural style. The two art forms essentially complemented one another as they grew into their own respective movements. Some of the best-known modernists, like Frank Lloyd Wright, Le Corbusier, Mies van der Rohe, saw their work become accessible to the public through the medium of movies, leading to greater exposure and publicity that enhanced their fame and allowing them to expand their body of built work. For cinema, modern design was appreciated by studio art directors for its sleekness and spaciousness, proving an ample alternative to their parents' or grandparents' Victorian clutter. This style, elevated by studio heads to create images of luxury and excellence associated with the golden era of Hollywood, was used to lift Depression-era audiences out of the harsh realities they resided in. Quite ironic, seeing how this went against the egalitarian principles advocated by the modernists.
Would you repeat that?
You don't care about money because you've always had it.
So what are the most obvious elements that characterize a good film? Direction and acting, obviously. Writing, editing, sound editing, musical score, and of course, production design. Architecture is tricky to categorize because, while, sure, sometimes they're born purely from the imagination and birthed through the use of CGI, most of the times they are locations scouted by either location scouts or the director. In the movie Lost in Translation, the Park Hyatt Hotel in Tokyo, designed by Kenzo Tange, is the center of both the story and a character within the story. This location is selected due to director Sofia Coppola's personal experiences in Japan and an affinity for the building. Films like Lost in Translation or one of my personal favorites, Annie Hall, would not have existed without its architectural context.
Do you love me?
I mean, love is too weak a word for. I love you. You know, I loathe you. I love you.
No.
With two F's. Yes, I have to invent. Yeah, of course I.
The most basic function of the built environment in a film is to establish to the audience when and where we are.
This is my favorite spot.
Whether it's an aerial shot or an establishing shot. That's just part of the magic of cinema, is having our eyes feast on new and exotic things. From the Shinto architecture of Japanese shrines to the Gothic cathedrals of late medieval Europe, the minimalistic blocks of Mies to the incomprehensible forms of Frank Gehry, transporting us to different eras in history. There's also the reverse effect, in which production designers and CGI supervisors comb through precedents of the past to establish visions of the future. The brutalist style has been used to illustrate totalitarianism, parametric design used to depict a digital world, and the futurism style recycled for elements of science fiction. As an audience, you may not realize this, but from the first moment in which you stepped into a theater, your education in architecture, both historical and modern, has already begun.
Perception. Is it possible?
But what else can architecture do for a film's narrative? It's also helpful in illustrating atmosphere, themes, and character traits. They can be symbols of idyllic suburban emptiness, signs of luxury and decadence, or dictate oppression. Someone who is great at using the built environment on a larger scale to drive the narrative is the legendary Woody Allen. Manhattan is his muse, and in many instances you can see how he will film New York City while it's overcast or shady to better enhance what he believes to be the depth of the city's beauty. In Annie Hall, the gray skies over Manhattan gives it a certain aesthetic that seems appropriate to his character Alvy Singer's inability to enjoy anything in life.
Alvy, you're incapable of enjoying life, you know that? I mean, you're like New York City. You're just this person, you're like this island unto yourself.
I can't enjoy anything unless everybody is. If one guy is starving someplace, that's, I puts a crimp in my evening.
California always come up as a frequent topic. However, we don't see the characters actually visited until the third
The
act.
architecture's really consistent, isn't it? French next to Spanish, next to Tudor, next to Japanese.
The city of LA serves to highlight the two different personalities of Alvy and Annie. Its bright and clear skies serves as a suitable simile for Annie's free-spirited and rather transparent nature. While Alvy, well...
Don't you see the rest of the country looks upon New York like we're left-wing communist, Jewish, homosexual pornographers? I think of us that way sometimes, and I live here.
Max, if we lived in California, we could play outdoors every day in the sun.
Sun is bad for you. Everything our parents said was good is bad. Sun, milk, red meat, college.
Architecture and film have been partners in opening our eyes to the world for decades. Film draws upon architecture in terms of aesthetics, narrative, and characterization. Architecture also relies on film to grow, introducing audiences to the possibilities of design and working together with film to expand creative imagination. Because while one generation may see the future as this, the next may see it as this, and even this. It's all part of how the future is shaped and defined. The relationship between film and architecture is so intrinsic, development of one ultimately may affect advances in the other. This is something I find fascinating and look to explore in the coming weeks, months, and maybe even years. A lot of these will be my own personal observations and opinions, and chances are, they're all wrong. So leave a comment, send a message, or shoot me a fax if you have your own analysis, and I thank you for watching. Toodles!